On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, the 7.5 Swiss barrel delivers. Ed Brown goes M&P. Gun confiscation in Virginia, and Narcanistan.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Marky and Freeze, and this is episode 154 of the John 1911 Everybody Has the Flu podcast.
Isn't that the truth, man?
Yeah. So we've been a little MIA just because between your work schedule and like half my office being down with the flu, it has been a clown show.
Yeah, let me tell you something. About midweek, I had 2 days where I was feeling like I was going to die, and then all of a sudden, like on the third day, it was just like, oh, it's gone. Because I thought I was coming down with the flu because everyone around here has the flu. And
that sounds like a Christ has risen reference for the holiday season.
Hey, man, I'll tell you what. I had a Christmas miracle last night.
Wait a minute, hold on. She didn't resist when they put her back in the cruiser? What was the Christmas miracle? You worked on that, right? Okay.
Look, I mean, if we're talking about freezers, I like my women like my coffee ground up and in the freezer. But that has nothing to do with this conversation. No. I grabbed a 2-liter off of the shelf. So I'm like, when I grab this 2-liter, it's like 5 feet from the floor. Slipped out of my hand, dropped, landed on the cap, on the ground.
Oh, no.
And did not bust open. And I'm like, it's a Christmas miracle. Because truthfully, usually when shit like that happens, it creates a huge mess. I was just like, holy crap. I don't have to clean up a mess, or I don't have to embarrass myself by saying, hey, I just left a whole 2-liter worth of soda on your floor.
Yeah, that could have been a great YouTube video. Like one of those people, they put some kind of candy in a, there's always it looks like some kid from Europe who never went to science class takes some kind of candy, puts in a 2-liter, and then reacts like, oh my God, I didn't know this would happen.
Oh yeah, that's the whole Mentos Diet Coke thing. Yeah. And but it was just like, hey, I'll take any wins I can get right now.
You know why the win is that? Because everything's harder in the ghetto. See, now, if you lived in like the Upper West Side of Manhattan, see, that would have been no big shakes. But see, in the ghetto, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. No, isn't that the truth though?
It is the truth.
The people that don't live in the ghetto or work in the ghetto. I don't live in the ghetto. Thank you very much. Thank you, baby Jesus.
Yeah.
But I do work in the ghetto, unfortunately. Bummer, baby Jesus. But you take the wins when you can get them. And
yeah. I'm not that I'm going to disparage the part of town you work in, but if we're going to talk about Christmas miracles, you have never, to my knowledge, brought home bed bugs.
Hey, you know what though? Let me tell you something about bed bugs.
The fact that you can even have this conversation is the point.
Okay, now look. I see people every day that have bed bugs crawling on their body in the daylight. Now, bed bugs are nocturnal. So when you're so freaking infested, they're crawling around on your fucking clothing outside in the daylight, you're bad.
Yeah, all the crevices are occupied by the other bed bugs.
No shit. Now, I'll tell you what, and I've always been real cognizant of bed bugs, especially back when we were in the T-shirt business, because, hey, I can't bring bed bugs. I cannot bring bed bugs back to the freaking production facility where we're producing T-shirts. Talk about a business killer.
Yeah, talk about going out of business, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're going out. It's a tactical T-shirts going out of business sale. Why? Well, they got bed bugs. Yeah. No. So, I mean, I've always been real leery about bed bugs, and that's
they took over they took over after I stopped working in the ghetto and I retired. We never
Yep.
saw bed bugs, but it was just out of control. But actually, you know what? Let's I want to try and get on some topical stuff here because we haven't addressed any of this. One, we've been MIA, and two, we've just been busy. But okay, there's all this drama going on in Virginia with these proposed gun laws.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's
And
all kinds of shit going on with
all
that.
these counties are declaring themselves sanctuary counties, and and they're like, well, you always give me a hard time about West by God, Virginia, because my family is
Yeah, I
from,
do.
my family is actually from West Virginia, and they're on the border. And here's the thing: every time you read an article about a county that has stood up stood up a militia, and the first sheriff, I think, to come out against all the stuff, that's in Tazewell County, and baby, that's home for me.
Yeah.
My grandparents and all my family going back, they're all buried in Tazewell County.
Okay.
It's that's home, and it's makes me a little proud. A little proud. Tazewell County's kind of stepping up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, have you followed any of this? Do you think, what do you think is going to happen in Virginia?
Okay. So first off, I think what's going to happen is the governor and the powers to be are going to have to back down because there's state representatives saying that they're going to have to call in the National Guard if the sheriffs don't comply, and that's actually illegal.
Well, hold on. Let me stop you there. So I'm going to step in it because we're about to get all the fucking couple things. The commander of the Virginia National Guard, I don't think he's a 2-star. It might be a 1-star. Could be a 2-star because the Virginia National Guard's pretty big.
The Virginia National Guard is actually, I believe it's called the Virginia Militia, but they are huge.
Yeah, because of all the former military people that live there. But he actually released a public statement because he got so many calls about, are you going to come and take my guns? And he came out, he issued a statement, and it was basically, he didn't say no. He didn't say yes. But what he said was something to the effect of, we are getting a lot of calls. I just want to go on record and say that nobody from the governor's office or the state or anybody has actually contacted us officially or unofficially to do any of this stuff. And we suggest everybody just please calm down. Now, now what he didn't say was, we will follow the orders of the commander-in-chief of the Commonwealth of Virginia. It wasn't a total kick at the governor, but you could read it either way. But here's something else. And I see, this is, okay, I don't know this, but I can assume it. As soon as I saw the thing about the governor calling out the National Guard, is you're going to get a bunch of hillbillies on the internet, and they're going to use, this is one of the phrases, as soon as I say it, you're going to cringe. Posse comitatus.
Oh, yeah. The Posse Comitatus Act is going to be the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay, so here's the reality of Posse comitatus. Posse comitatus is a law that says, you can't use the military to engage in law enforcement activities. Now, here's the problem. Now, every sovereign citizen and all these people that are anti-government like to throw this phrase around. They throw it around kind of like common law marriage and some other stuff without actually knowing what's going on. Posse comitatus as a concept does exist. I believe it is a law. Here's the problem. It's never been used. It's never been enacted. It's never been constitutionally tested. It's never been ruled on it by any judge. So here's the thing. You could pass a law that says, you're going to give me your firstborn son. And you'd be like, well, that's fucking illegal. Or you could be the other guy, be like, well, it's a law, it's illegal. Here's the thing. just because there's a law doesn't mean it's real. There is the idea in that the government cannot call out the military to solve these kinds of problems flies right in the face of JFK sitting like, was it the 101st Airborne Division to like Alabama for segregated schools or some shit?
I got another one that'll blow your socks off. The governor of Ohio calling out National Guard troops at Kent State University. Bingo.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They're all going to be like, but they all got killed by the government. I mean, like people got shot. Look.
Okay, granted, the Kent State thing was a clusterfuck in itself, but my point is, the governor can call out the National Guard or the local militia or whatever the fuck you want to call it. They can call them out to enforce the law. But then you got the whole Posse Comitatus Act, which
Posse Comitatus. I'm going to tell everybody listening to this. The two words Posse Comitatus, just erase that bullshit from your mind, because you are miseducated and people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Just forget that. Now I want to make this point because I thought about this. I predicted this for years. And I don't know if I said it publicly, but I predicted this. Okay, so all these people that are like, look, I'm describing myself on some level too, so I'm not disparaging anybody. But if you're a person who's like, government's too big, government's too powerful, government's overreaching, he's a statist, she's a statist, the UN, sovereign, federalism versus, and they're like states' rights and all this stuff. And very easily in this group of people, you will see a conversation that normally goes along something like fuck the police or fuck the man or fuck whatever. And what I always wanted to warn people about was, hey bozos, the police are made up of your local citizens. It's not like the FBI that moves people all around the country. And so in the event that the government goes crazy with some bullshit law, it's going to be your local sheriff and your local police chief that all of a sudden is going to be like, I'm a fucking patriot and we're not fucking doing this bullshit. And all of a sudden, everybody's like, God bless the sheriff of Tazewell County. And it's like, I wonder how many of those fucking people, when Waco was burning, would have been like, God bless the sheriff of Tazewell County. It's real interesting how quickly they fucking like to sit on the fence when it helps their argument because they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, and that's the fair weather person. Everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say the fair weather fan, let's say. Look, the truth is, if the majority of the sheriffs of Virginia say we are not enforcing these laws, the governor of Virginia cannot call out the National Guard or the militia or whatever they're calling themselves to enforce them because it's not feasibly possible.
There's a lot of logistical problems with it, and how are they going to do it? And here's the thing. They still have to get, here's the thing. You call the National Guard. Let's just say the governor enacts the National Guard. Okay, it's like, why are they National Guard? Everyone's like, oh my God, the National Guard. They freak out. They don't know what they're actually saying. So where's the warrant for Brigadier General so-and-so to go into John A. Smith's house in Tazewell County? You see what I'm saying? It's not, it's a state of emergency. Well, look, the governor, there's a political problem here and there's a legal problem here. There's legal problems with enacting some of this stuff. Then there's political problems. The political problems are going to be when the governor asks people to do things that they think are unconstitutional, and when they look at him and they go no, or they resign, or they show up someplace and there's a bunch of guys with semi-automatic AR-15s going, you cross this fucking bridge into my county and there's going to be trouble. As soon as there's trouble politically, this all changes. As soon as somebody gets hurt, politically, the country is going to go, wait a minute. We've had the Second Amendment. Why are now people getting hurt over an existing Bill of Rights? I mean, it's like this. I mean, the politics of the governor of Virginia. He's got the podium. He's got the office. He's got the press staff. He's got all of it right now. But if this actually goes with some of these bullshit comments like, I'm going to call out the National Guard, he will immediately find himself in the biggest fucking shitstorm since 1861.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, exactly.
This will go poorly. And I'm not saying it'll be a civil war, but what I'm saying is
no. I'm not saying it's a civil war, but I'm just saying it is not as cut and dry as you get these liberals in powers going, well, these sheriffs don't involve, don't follow their their laws, then we're going to call out the National Guard. It's like, no, it's not that fucking simple.
Think about the coalition of a politician that comes from his side of the aisle. So he's all about saving the environment, putting money into let's do all this stuff, and some of it's worthwhile. Like he's got a thing like, we're going to go through all of the Virginia state code, and we're going to remove any laws that are racists, that are, and here's the thing, every state has those. We have a law in Ohio about technically you need to strap your carriage to a post before you walk away from it, because that's a carryover from when everybody was in a horse and buggy. Well, the law, I believe, is still on the books, but you don't have to tie your car to a post every time you pull up. There's all kinds of these old defunct laws that still exist.
Sure, they're called blue laws.
No. Blue laws are something else. No, you're wrong. Blue laws, no, because I grew up in a town with blue laws. Blue laws are things like no alcohol sales on Sunday. Stores got to close. You can't cut your grass on Sunday. It's more of a religious thing. They're not blue laws. That's something else. But the thing is, if the government wants to do that kind of stuff, that's fine. I support that. Let's go through and remove all this crazy shit from the thing. And look, if they want to support, hey, let's go put money into to protect this watershed, okay, fine. You want to do this, you want to do that. And all of a sudden, now the governor, because there isn't this great big call throughout his constituency, throughout the entire state, to ban guns. I mean, maybe it's popular in Georgetown at his parties, but the entire state isn't calling for this. So now he's become governor. His coalition that voted for him, it supports him for governor. Then all of a sudden, half his state is on fire and people are getting killed. He's going to get blamed for people. He's going to get blamed for all this. And he's going to lose not just the pro-gun people. He's going to lose the people that are like, wait a minute. Why? I voted for you because I want to have cheaper education. I want to have free community college, and I want to try to right some wrongs of history. I don't want to light the southern part of the state on fire. It's like it's going to be his fault. That's why politically, I think this. I don't know where this is going to go, but I just can't see him going through with this.
No, I don't see it either, because look, seriously, if you have the majority of the sheriffs in your entire state, and Virginia is not a small state.
No, it's a big state.
Saying that we are not going to follow these laws because they're unconstitutional in our opinion. And the governor is just like, well, you will follow these laws or we'll enact, we'll call the National Guard, blah, blah. Look, it's a bluff that truthfully the governor cannot fucking win.
Well, you can't govern without the consent of the governed.
Exactly. And if the majority of the people in your state stand up and say no, and more importantly, the law enforcement officials in your state say, we are backing the people on this, and we say no as well, what's the governor going to do? The only thing he can do is enact the military, and that is first off, that's a huge mistake. It's a political mistake.
what they can do is what they pass laws, and then what they do is they try to find, like, say, county prosecutors or county attorneys. I can't remember what they call them in Virginia, and or whatever they call them. Sometimes they even call them judges. But to prosecute people, like I guess for felonies. Well, here's the thing: if you're injuring people legally, like, okay, like, we didn't talk about this on pod because, number one, I knew it was fucked up just from what I was seeing, but I didn't know why. So, like, this guy in New York got on the internet. I guess he's a dirtbag, and he's burglarizes houses, and he slaps his girlfriend around. But he got on the internet, and he said he claimed that he was, quote, being red flagged, and they were coming to take his gun or his magazines and his guns. And
I remember that incident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that exploded, and, like, people showed up. And here's the thing: that turned out to be fake. Well, it's not 1994. Yes. The average gun owner today is very educated, and they know how things work. And they also, people like your age and my age, we saw our gun rights degraded significantly. And we've also seen what happens in places like New York, where they're like, okay, we're gonna ban these, but then you can be grandfathered. And I remember this happened in California. There was a class of guns that, when they wrote the laws, they forgot the definition was screwed up with the definition, and there was a proverbial loophole, and some kind of guns got through. They were pretty unique. They were military guns, but they weren't covered.
Yeah.
And so they figured out that these guns existed, and they said, okay, look, you have these guns. We're going to amend the law to cover these guns. You have to bring them in. We're going to get them on paper, get them registered, and you can keep them. And they didn't say this, but you can chalk this up as a win. And if you don't bring them in, you can keep them. You're going to be a felon. So everybody brought their guns in. And then, like, it wasn't a year or two later, they issued a ruling and said, oh, by the way, you can't have those anymore. Turn them in or destroy them. We're going to put you in jail. And it's like, this isn't a theory. It's always been about confiscation. It's always been about control. The governor of Virginia isn't going to get the benefit of the doubt of what we don't know anymore. We know where this is going. We've seen what happened in Connecticut. We've seen what happened in New York. We've seen what's happened in New Zealand. We've seen what's happened in England. I mean, England is a shit show because of their gun laws. And I don't know how he's in a cul-de-sac. I don't know how he gets out of this. I just think he walks away from it.
I mean, you very well may be right on that. I mean, because politically, this is a fucking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just a freaking nightmare politically because, look, I mean, the liberal powers to be have enacted these laws, and they're like, well, this is what we're going to do. And everyone in the state, including a majority of the law enforcement officers, are like, no, sorry, it's not going to fucking happen here. Because if you, and here's the precedence, they're like, oh, you guys all condone sanctuary cities. Well, you know what? We've got Second Amendment sanctuary cities now. And they're like, oh, no, you can't have those. And it's like, dude, this is just a political fucking loser.
Yeah, the whole thing. Plus, it's built into the Bill of Rights, and it's a constitutional amendment. It's like, it's not like, I mean, there's no constitutional amendment that says people from the island of Fiji get to immigrate to the U.S. undocumented. I mean, you know what I mean? That's never been the case.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, when you start talking about, we have sanctuary cities that, blah, 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 but you can't have sanctuary Second Amendment, which is, of course, the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights. It doesn't fly. And I mean, politically, this is a fucking loser all the way around. And,
it is.
And look,
it's kind of like the status quo is like, I guess it's always been, look, okay, you assholes in New York City, you can do what you want to do to make your city run fine. You assholes in California, and California is a huge, huge state, obviously. I mean, like, there's more guns in California than, like, oh my God, just about anywhere. But, it's like the idea, like, okay, you can do what you want to do, but you're going to leave us alone. Well, now they're coming, and it's coming to Virginia. It's, if it do it, I'll tell you what, if it can happen in Virginia, it can happen to Ohio.
Sure it can. But again, the question you have to ask yourself is, will it happen in Virginia? I mean, even though the liberal powers to be have passed the laws, will those laws be enacted upon?
For the record, they have not passed yet. They're still writing them. They have not passed into law yet. They're getting ahead of it now.
Okay, I was under the impression that these laws had passed.
No, not the last I checked. I don't believe as of Friday they had technically passed yet, because they were still trying to negotiate. Like, the governor came out and said, well, no, you can be grandfathered and you can keep your guns. But then it was like, you can't give them to your kids. Well, but here's the thing. So, like, let's get off Virginia and just look at the arc of history here. And this is going to circle back to the whole idea of, like, insurrection and civil war. Look, I don't know if we're going to have a civil war. I don't know if we're going to have, like, there's going to be, like, I don't know, Rambo at the bridge in Tazewell County, in Virginia or whatever. But I think it's pretty safe to say that if you look at the odds of, like, Vegas, and you extrapolate out over time, over the next, say, like every 30 days, say over the next 10 years, pretty safe. It's a pretty safe bet to assume that someplace, somewhere, somehow, through some ridiculous set of circumstances, somebody who is a law-abiding citizen today is going to get jammed up by one of these new gun laws that are going to be enacted in the future, and somebody's going to get seriously hurt or injured, and that's going to change the politics of this. And I hate to say that, but somebody's going to get hurt.
Look, I don't disagree with that at all. I actually agree with it 100%. And it's kind of like...
It may happen in Ohio in 2025, but until people learn that you just can't pass bullshit laws without actually the consent of the people that have to abide by them, there's going to be there's some collision here coming.
Yes, all absolutely.
Right. Hey, let's get off this because we've gone way too long on it, but it was kind of a big topic. Hey, you remember how we discussed how we thought that the 1911 market was oversaturated and a lot of these businesses are going to be in trouble?
Oh, God, we've discussed that many times, yes.
Well, because, like, Wilson had come out with their own striker-fired gun at one point. Wilson's now doing Beretta 92s, and I can't, like, and, like what was it? I think Nighthawk, I don't know what Nighthawk was doing, but, and even, like, Novak years ago, they were doing high powers, and all these people are doing Glocks. Well, here's the thing. This was interesting. Ed Brown, I saw this. I couldn't believe it. Ed Brown is doing full custom M&P pistol builds.
Okay, you know what? And I don't know anything about Ed Brown doing M&P custom builds. I mean, I'm hearing this on the first time with you telling me this.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Ed's out of the picture. His sons are kind of running the business. And, the truth is, it's smart business. It is, because, I mean, if I was in charge of the Ed Brown, I don't know, we'll call it the Ed Brown Corporation. I don't know what they're called. But if I was in charge of Ed Brown, dude, yeah, I'd be doing custom M&Ps too, because it's, look, the 1911s will be around forever. I mean, they're iconic. People love them. People shoot them. People use them in competition. But the truth is, it's old school. I mean, if you want to do the wave of the future, I mean, you need to do Glocks, you need to do M&Ps, you need to do SIGs. I mean, you need to keep with it. And if you want a viable business model, dude, doing Ed Brown custom M&Ps, dude, you're a winner.
Well, it's interesting because they're trying to carve out their own niche. Because look, like the reference a couple things. When we had the T-shirt business, there's how many Chris Kyle shirts could we have sold? How many shoot 'em in the cocksucker shirts could we have sold? I mean, look, you could sell a lot of them, but there comes a point
Yeah,
when everybody's got one. Then you need a new SKU, you
exactly.
need a new product. And Ed
Yes.
Brown, companies like Ed Brown and like Wilson's got like high capacity. Wilson's been working real hard on high capacity 9mm 1911s. STI has been perfecting it. It's just, I just saw that. I was just like, wow, I mean, how far we've come from the peak of the custom 1911 market, which was artificially created by the 1994 assault weapons ban, which limited capacity. And a lot of people, everybody rewrites history, but it's true. People like you and me were like, well, dude, if I can't carry 15 fucking rounds, if I have to carry 8 or 10, I'm going to carry the biggest 8 or 10 bullets I can get. And that
Yeah.
totally revived the 1911 market. And it's
Yeah.
over now because now everybody's got a Wonder 9. And these companies like Ed Brown are like, they're doing, I just like, I know Ed Brown or the old man personally.
Yeah, I know, and I know you have ties to the company from the old days. I mean, back from the old
Hold on,
days.
kind of losing you there.
What's that?
Yeah, kind of losing you there. Yeah, I know Ed Brown, and I know how he thinks about
Yeah.
stuff. And I just think it's interesting, like, when Ed Brown was even really against even like painting. He called it paint.
Yeah, well, Brown's
I think
like Henry Ford. You can have any model car you want as long as it's black. I mean,
yeah. I mean, he was like, he did stainless and he did blued, and he was.
But
like,
you know what? He was old school. I mean, he came out. I mean, look, Ed Brown is kind of like one of those old school guys. I mean, back when he was shooting competition and there wasn't any custom guns and you had to custom yourself. I mean, he came up old school, but the truth is, and this is not saying anything negative about Ed Brown himself. I mean, Ed Brown Sr., the original guy. This is, I mean, he came up old school. He had his own philosophy and his own thought, and that's great. And it worked well for him.
He made more money than just about
No, I mean, it worked great for him. But the truth is, his sons are running the business now, and they understand if they want to stay in business, they have to conform to things. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can.
I guess the question is Ed Brown's business as a company? This is just a business question, and we will never know. So is Ed? So when the boys came into the business, the key to Ed Brown's success was the model. It was the Henry Ford Model T argument. You can have any color you want as long as it's black. Ed Brown used to be full custom. He built all the shit by hand. Everything was different, and he went into mass production. And he basically built guns his way, and he got volume out of them. And then from that process and that logic, he went to the OEM business and was making parts for other gun makers.
Yes.
And his business was expanding.
Yes.
He was making more money. And I just wonder now, is Ed Brown, are the boys doing all the options because the sales numbers are declining or they're no longer expanding? Because they can't expand forever because it's not going to be $1 billion company. It has to. I mean, there's only so big a company in like Perry, Missouri can be.
Well, look,
you know what I
mean? I obviously I'm not an authority on this, and I don't have any insider information. But I have to assume that when you get right down to it, the 1911 market is not what it was 10 years ago, not what it was 20 years ago, not what it was 30 years ago. And if they want to survive, pumping, because look, if you're as well as I do, because you've been an independent business person for many, many years. If you want to continue to survive, you have to increase your revenue each year. You can't decrease your revenue because that's not going to fly.
Yeah, even to just beat inflation, because here's the thing: it's not just the cost of everything, the cost of your suppliers, the cost of borrowing money, the overhead of just operating goes up. I just was interesting. It just was such a shock to see that. I was like,
but
oh
you
my
know what?
God.
No, it really, honestly doesn't surprise me. And actually, I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of happy to hear about it because, one, I don't want to see any gun manufacturer go out of business. I mean, I really don't. And the fact that I think this will bring Ed Brown into the next level for the next 10, 15 years, I think is excellent. And I think it's a smart move on their part. I think it's a wise move. And because, look, the truth is, how many people are going to be buying 1911s? Now, look, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, people will always buy 1911s the same way we bought the Steyr AUG because they are, they're antique, they're traditional, they're a fine firearm. But the truth is, if you want to stay competitive in a competitive market, which is a market where people are carrying for self-defense, which people are using for competition, you have to evolve into the future. And the truth is, doing custom M&Ps, and I'm not saying M&Ps are going to be the wave of the future for the next 30 years, but I'm saying you have to go into the modern firearm market. And 1911s is not the modern firearm market. Now, I know I'm going to piss off some 1911 fanboys. And look, dude, I'm a 1911 fanboy. So are you. Between the two of us, what do we own? A dozen of them?
It's the John 1911 website.
Exactly. The John 1911 website.
Let me explain the market then we're going to get off this. Let me explain the market, how the current high-end 1911 market works right now. And this is the financial side of it. This is the dollar side of it. People don't want to admit it. There were a lot of people 10 years ago and 15 years ago that spent big money on a high-end 1911.
Yes.
We all.
Yeah.
And if you were on a forum, you saw the following comment. If you saw it once, you saw it 100,000 times. It was this: I'm buying an heirloom gun so I can pass down. I want one good gun I can pass down to my kids or my grandkids. And here's what happened: all these people bought these heirloom guns because they paid $3,000 at the time, $2,500 to $3,000 for these things. They didn't shoot them for shit. They're basically brand new today, and the market is flooded. The secondary market is flooded today with like new or brand new guns that people paid top dollar for, that they can't get their money out of them now, and those are cannibalizing the new sales.
Yes.
Why should I buy a $4,000? Now the guns are almost $4,000, and I can buy a Wilson or whatever that's hardly shot for $2,000, and it's killing these people.
Yeah,
the market's so top heavy with pre-existing inventory that it's just killing them, and that's why they're doing all that. Hey, speaking of old school, let me change gears here. I made a mistake on the internet with one of our videos.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I don't know if it. Yeah. There's no porn out here. Hold on. Bunny Nellens is calling.
Okay.
So we shot. The video went up today or yesterday. We shot the 7.5 Swiss gun. We shot the 7.5 Swiss gun. Out to 520 yards.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, we did, and actually,
so
I was. I mean, that was a good day. I was really impressed with the performance we got out of it. Yes.
So 15 shots. 15 shots total through that barrel is all we have. But that includes 2 test shots to make sure it doesn't blow up.
You're saying when we were out there, we only shot 15 rounds through that?
Total, yes, that day. That was 15.
Okay. I thought we did more, but I know you lost round count, so.
Yeah, I lost 15 rounds. So then
15 rounds, the performance we had out of that barrel was amazing.
Well, check this out. So how did we get the gun? I'm trying to get you to say the phrase. How did we get the gun out to 520 yards? What technique did we use to get that gun on steel at 520 yards in total of 15 shots. Really, we did it in 5 shots. But how did we do that? Do you remember what we did? What I did?
Well, I mean,
I got on the internet and I looked up something. What did I look up?
Oh fuck, what's it called? You looked up. Man,
I'm just grinning and
no. You looked up. I off the top of my head.
Before you remember,
I know what you're talking about.
Before you remember the phrase, I want you to remember something about your life. You work in the ghetto, and think about the phrase when it hits you, and I say it. Think about what that phrase would sound like in the ghetto.
Okay. No, I mean, look.
The phrase, ladies and gentlemen, is called tri-dope.
Yes, tri-dope. That's I couldn't think of the phrase, but yes. You looked up tri-dope.
Dope. The phrase, the word dope, for those of you that are uninitiated, is called data on previous engagements. That's where the phrase dope comes from in the precision rifle sniper world. And then tri-dope is basically getting online, finding somebody else's data, similar barrel, caliber, whatever bullet, and being like, okay, I don't have my gun zeroed, but I'm going to use Ray's dope and see how close we can get to fine tune it, because we don't have computers or whatever. So when I publish this video, I tagged the phrase in all of the content, tri-dope.
Oh, shit. You probably got some nasty shit coming back at you, because when I'm deleting it, but we are getting like head shops. We're getting hustlers. See,
we're getting pro marijuana people.
See, I think
it's crazy.
Okay, so when you think of the term tri-dope, I work in the ghetto. I work narco. Okay, so I automatically think when you go, tri-dope, I think Norco, Suboxone, heroin, tri-dope, because that's the ladder.
See, when I think of tri-dope, I'm thinking like a gateway drug like marijuana.
Oh, no. Dude, you are so fucking old school. Marijuana's not even dope anymore. That's Tylenol.
I know.
Marijuana is Tylenol. It's like taking fucking Motrin for a fucking backache. You know? Here's why. But you know what? Here's my problem with marijuana. Everyone in the fucking ghetto.
I do not want to spend
we're not going to spend minutes on it. But here's my problem with marijuana. Honestly, I don't have a problem with people that smoke pot. I don't. I don't give two shits about people that smoke pot. They're not.
And everybody listening to this podcast has already heard you say that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Everyone in the fucking ghetto smokes this goddamn pot that smells. Okay, anyone who has ever been on the road who has either hit a skunk or driven over a dead skunk that has been hit on the road, they know the smell of skunk. You know, when a skunk sprays, they know. Pretty much everyone knows what a skunk smells like. All this fucking pot that they smoke in the ghetto smells like a goddamn dead skunk. And, you know, there's times when I'm doing a 10, 12-hour shift, when I get off my shift, I almost feel nauseated because the smell. Look, dude, I'm not going to lie to you. I know guys that I've hunted with for 30 years that smoke pot. And they smoke good pot. And none of it smells like a dead fucking skunk. This shit is nasty. Now, it may get you high as fuck. I don't know, because I don't smoke pot. But this shit is so nasty smelling. It is just, it's unfreaking believable. But with that being said, look.
You're closing in on 10
minutes. No, okay. So we're off this. But look, when I think about tri-dope, pot doesn't even come to mind. I mean, my minimum standard is Norco, which is basically Vicodin.
Oh, dude, you were telling me this was off pod, obviously. You told me this like a week or so ago. That you were talking to some Massachusetts state troopers,
Yeah.
and there's an area, a neighborhood in Boston, I believe. I could have
No.
that they call Narcanistan.
Narcanistan. Yeah, and that is a neighborhood in Boston, and I'm not going to go into detail as far as what neighborhood is, but I was talking to a couple state troopers that are they're Massachusetts State Police troopers, and we were sitting in a bar having some beers, and having some appetizers and hanging out. And one of the guys was telling me one of the areas in Boston, and this is a convergent area, which the Boston State Police, the Massachusetts State Police, and then one of the other local towns, it's like a 3 police area that converges on them. Because here in Ohio, it's like you have city police, you have county police. In Massachusetts, the state police trumps everyone. It's kind of a different situation.
Yeah, that is that. You know what? That's very different than it is.
Yeah, it is. But this is an area outside of Boston where Boston, another town, another city, and the state police all converge, and they all kind of have like multi-jurisdictional thing. And it's horrible because, it's kind of like San Francisco where you find, where you have to scrape the needles up with the snow shovel off the street. And they actually literally call this area, and again, I'm not going to go into details as far as the area or whatever, but they actually call it Narcanistan. And
but
you know what? That's Massachusetts. I mean, it's a communist state. It is what it is. But when I heard that, I immediately texted you, and I mean, it was just like, dude, this is fucking gold. Narcanistan.
You know what? That gallows humor from the police is. I mean, there's some of that humor is the best humor.
Yes.
Because you just can't. That's idea. And Narcanistan was, I have to admit, because I saw I didn't know what it was when I first saw it, and I rarely saw that. But it's like now it's so out of control.
Oh,
but hey, so I want to tell you something. Because we missed this because it's already December 15th or 14th today. So on December the 7th, there's this. I drive by, I go get a haircut, and I go to the barbershop, and I'm driving down this road. And this, you can tell it's like an old man's house. And in December, he'll put a sign up in his yard, and he'll say, "Remember Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941."
Yeah, okay.
And so it was December the 6th, and I don't know. I was just going to go by his house, and you know what? I'm looking forward to that sign today because a lot of people do forget.
Yeah.
And I'm driving down, and I go up in front of it's a major road, and there's a sign. I see a sign. It's always a handmade wooden sign. It's not magic marker on a piece of paper. He puts effort into this stuff. And I see the sign. I'm like, oh, here it is. And I'm driving up to it to get ready. I want to take a picture and I want to post it. And the sign says the time change is bullshit.
Really?
I was like, oh, okay, we've moved on to a different topic, apparently.
Okay. That's actually,
and
I actually kind of like that.
You know what? I know our listeners don't care, but I got a huge chuckle out of it. And I was also like, dude, where's your December 7th sign, bitch? He didn't have it up. So
that's awesome.
The time change is bullshit. It's like, you know what?
But you know what?
He might have said daylight savings time is bullshit. Yeah. But he had something is bullshit.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, he's not wrong. I mean, because daylight savings time is kind of bullshit.
It is. I think we should get rid of it. So, well, I'll tell you what, I'm almost to the range, so we're probably going to have to wrap this one up. So, is there anything else you want to add before we
you know what? Out? Let me just throw this in. We had talked off pod many times about Vortex scopes, and I'm not a fan of Vortex. I'm not a fan of Vortex scopes, and it's not that Vortex. Let me say this: it's not that Vortex scopes are bad scopes. They're fine, but I don't think the quality of a Chinese-made scope opposed to the retail, the MSRP that they charge for them is solid, and that's my
I agree.
and that's my whole problem with Vortex scopes. But I am looking for like a 1x6, a 1-to-6 power short range optic scope for the 10.5-inch pistol build AR I have. And guys that listen to our podcast or watch our videos know this gun. But over the past week, and I don't know if it's because of Christmas, Black Friday, whatever, I'm seeing these 1-to-6 Vortex scopes at a really, really reasonable price. And I'm like,
yeah, they're half off.
No, dude, I'm seriously thinking about scoring on one. And it's, I'm not saying I will. I'm thinking about it. We'll see what happens in the next week or two. But
well, you know what? That'll be the Christmas. That'll be the goodbye recommendation of this podcast, and we'll close it out. Because here's what's happening. All these there's 1-to-8 is coming. 1-to-8. All the higher end scope companies have had 1-to-8 for a while now, especially Schmidt and Bender, and they're $3,000, $4,000 scopes. And so Trigicon's got a 1-to-8, Night Force has a 1-to-8, and what's happening is, I'm sure Vortex is coming out with a 1-to-8, so they're blowing out they're all blowing out the inventory because it's the last of the Christmas season, and they can get the numbers.
Yeah.
Because come January, the one, did I say 1-to-8? They're blowing out the 1-to-6s because in January at SHOT Show, I am certain Vortex will release 1-to-8s that are going to be like crazy expensive.
Yes.
And they won't be able to give the 1-to-6s away. So I think you should pick one up.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I'm like seriously, because I'm looking for a 1-to-6. Because look, I'm going to be running this gun in the pit. I'm not going to be shooting it at a million fucking yards. I want something I can work with, and a 1-to-6 will work for me. I don't need.
The 1-to-6 works in the pit. It also works to hunt.
Yes, so it does. So I'm seriously thinking about it because I'm seeing some prices that are really, as far as I'm concerned, very affordable. Opposed to, look, I mean, my whole.
Hold on. We can't go too much longer because we're going to drop. So let me just go ahead and say this to help everybody out. The ads that I saw that were blowing out the Vortex scopes was Optics Planet. I know for sure they were doing it. So if you are in the market for a inexpensive 1-to-6 scope at a holiday giveaway price, you may want to think about going to Optics Planet. We have no affiliation with Optics Planet.
None.
As a matter of fact, I don't buy anything from Optics Planet because I think they're too expensive. So anyway, well, that wraps up episode 154 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see any pictures or stories or links to the subjects or things that we discussed, go to our website, john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
See you later.